Nicholas Rossi update! It's day 3 of the criminal trial, and it was now time for the defense to call their own witnesses. Retired police officer Yolanda Stewart was up first. She was the police officer who first wrote up the report on Kay's claims against Rossi after the rape kit was performed. The police report had the same details as the attack that Kay recounted yesterday, and medical examination showed bruising on Kay's legs. Stewart also interviewed Rossi as part of the report, and Rossi told her that he would never do anything like Kay claimed he did because, in fact, he was actually afraid of sex. But after Stewart filed her report, she followed up with Kay and became incredibly frustrated when she learned that Kay had met up with Rossi after the attack, because Stewart believed that anyone who had legitimately been attacked would have been too afraid to ever see their attackers again. And she told Kay it would look really bad on the witness stand. Officer Stewart concluded that Utah prosecutors probably wouldn't take up the case, so she made the decision herself not to even bother forwarding it to them to consider. But on cross-examination, Stewart did admit that when the case was brought to Utah prosecutors in 2020, they jumped on it. Officer Stewart was dismissed, and the next defense witness was called, and it was none other than M's dad. How effed up is that? Colonel Quaritch from the Avatar movies was asked about his daughter and Rossi's relationship. He felt that it was extremely rushed and that Rossi was fishy. Only 21 years old, but already a college grad, Navy vet, and working in finance, but also broke and unemployed. After Rossi and M became engaged, Niedermeyer and his daughter had a massive argument over the engagement rings. He felt that it was the height of irresponsibility that she financed the rings when customarily it should have been the guy, Nicholas Rossi. Just to let you know where his head is at. But the biggest reveal in the father's testimony was not only that he denied ever telling his daughter that she deserved to be attacked, but that he was never told about the attack at all. The mom testified they were told about it, but the dad flat out refutes it. And if you're saying to yourself, well, no wonder her mom and dad got divorced, nope. Because on cross-examination, the first thing prosecutors asked him was, hey, isn't it true you haven't seen your daughter in years ever since your divorce because you were having an affair with your secretary? Which prompted a very loud objection from Samantha Dugan of the defense, and Judge Lawrence had it stricken from the record. Prosecution asked him if in the heat of the moment during that shouting match over engagement rings that perhaps he didn't process what his daughter said about being attacked, and he said yes, that is possible, but during redirect, the defense said, would something of that magnitude have registered with you? And he said, yes, it almost certainly would have. And with only 2 witnesses called, the defense rested. Rossi did not take the stand in his own defense, no matter how much we wanted to see him do it, and that is his right and also the smart play. Because if he had taken the stand, we all know it would have been perjury o'clock, which meant it was now time for closing arguments. The prosecution went first and restated the evidence and key details. That Rossi attacked her, and that her story from 17 years ago has remained consistent from the first time she told Detective Coates about him in 2022, all the way up to taking the witness stand on Monday. And prosecution asked the jury, why would she lie? And if she was lying, why not make it a juicier lie with even more salacious details? The defense would have you believe that this was a woman scorned, but to hold on to a grudge for 17 years over $3,000 and to make this accusation for it, it just doesn't make sense. She told you exactly who Rossi is and what he did. And what did Rossi do? Became Arthur Knight. Lied to a judge about having ever been Nicholas Rossi at all, because he also knew what he did, and he didn't want to face these charges. Rossi's public defender, Samantha Dugan, spoke next, and once again returned to the thrift store jigsaw puzzle analogy for their closing arguments. The missing pieces in this puzzle are huge and troublesome, and the timeline is murky. The attack took place in December of 2008, but prosecutors failed to prove that Rossi was in that apartment prior to January 2009. She had a brain injury and they got engaged after only a week? This whole thing is crazier than 90 Day Fiancé, which people only watch because of how bizarre it is. What if it wasn't an attack? What if it was breakup sex? And you're allowed to move to the UK, and you're allowed to change your name. Everything else is just wild speculation. And with that, the jury adjourned to deliberate the case. What their verdict will be, Rossi's fate, and what happens next in this 2.5-year odyssey of covering this story is now all in the hands of 8 jurors. Stay tuned.